Hey there, I'm Jesse Hall, and I'm your host for Business Elite Brevard Edition, the podcast that brings you all of the influencers, innovators, and industry leaders from right here on the Space Coast. And hello, good morning. This is Jesse Hall, and I am your host for Business Elite Brevard Edition. And I have a special guest in the studio today. Reminder, we are live on Facebook. So try to catch all of our shows at Space Coast Podcast Facebook page. And I want to encourage everybody listening to go ahead and offer a question or comment. And if we have time, we're going to go review those questions and see if we can help you out, clear some things up. It's going to be an action-packed hour because there's so much going on here on the Space Coast. We're seeing a lot of development. There's a lot of questions I know people have. You know, when there's a new construction site that just magically appears overnight and lanes are closed and now your commute just took a little bit longer and you need somebody to blame, well, we're going to find that person here today. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But if you ever want to be in the know and if you ever want to have a heads up of what's going on, what lane closures, what bridges are going to be replaced, what infrastructure is going on, the Space Coast TPO is a great resource. And representing them, it's our pleasure to introduce to you Georganna Gillette with the Space Coast TPO. Good morning.
Good morning. Pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Once again, it's one of those topics that, for me, I get passionate about. So I hope other people share in the passion. If not, I'm just going to do this selfishly and get to know what's going on in our community regarding transportation needs, how we're dealing with the pedestrians, the cyclists, everybody sharing the road, replacing bridges, dealing with the increase in traffic and population here. So when you see cones go down and lane closures, you want to be ahead of it. You don't want for you to be a surprise and now your commute, is going to make you late for work. If you have your finger on the pulse of the TPO, you're going to know well in advance as to what's coming up. And then as the public, you can challenge it or dispute it or ask more questions, inquire about it, instead of after the fact being reactive. And now it's happened. And now you're like, who's responsible? And I don't know if that really helps.
Yes. Yes. Very good point.
So as with every episode, I like to dive in first to get to know the guest. Let the audience learn more about you as a person before we dive into the functionality of the TPO and what your responsibility is with the TPO. So, Georganna, were you always in Florida or did you grow up somewhere else?
Yes, I am a Floridian, born and raised in North Florida, a little town called Live Oak.
Live Oak is beautiful.
Yes.
Suwannee.
Right on the Suwannee River. It's actually the home of the Spirit of the Suwannee Music Park, if you've ever attended any music festivals up there. But it is quite beautiful. So, I enjoyed canoeing on the Suwannee River, fishing, sitting around a bonfire, talking. It was a very relaxed lifestyle when I was growing up. My mom was a school bus driver for 35 years, and my dad was a mechanic.
Oh.
And they were very hard workers. They took pride in what they did. Our grandparents lived right next door to us. And, we had a very large vegetable garden that, we always had fresh vegetables. And, of course, we always had to work in the garden. We had massive pecan trees.
Oh, pecans.
And, of course, that was one of our jobs. We had to pick up pecans all the time. And it was just it was a great way to grow up, I'll have to say.
I mean, I can only... There was visuals of, picking up pecans from under big old oaks and Spanish moss hanging around.
Yes.
And it must have been just glorious.
It was
wonderful. Sounds like a great time. And again, the Suwannee River, they write songs about this river. So
That's right.
In North Florida, so you were closer to Tallahassee.
Correct.
And and some of those areas. So what made you come down to South Florida or Central Florida?
After high school, I got married, and of course my husband was in the Army, so he immediately got stationed in Germany.
Okay.
And so we took off and we went to Germany for a few years, and it was just an absolutely wonderful experience. I had my daughter in Germany. Mm-hmm. Even though the marriage didn't last, I have a beautiful and kind daughter that I couldn't be more proud of. But I immediately, when I moved back home, right where I started, and I immediately started looking for a job. And I ended up getting a couple of jobs, ended up working for an attorney for a couple of years. Loved that, but he received a judgeship, so that job didn't work out. And then there was a job at the Florida Department of Transportation. And so I applied for that job. It was in bridge inspection.
Fascinating.
Received certification for bridge inspection, and I worked in project management, overseeing some of their local government and complex bridges. Mm-hmm. And I met my husband in 2000. Someone, actually a mutual friend, it was his sister, introduced us.
Oh, playing Cupid.
Yes. And he was living in Titusville. Mm. And working at the Kennedy Space Center for United Space Alliance.
Oh, excellent. And, great organization.
Yes. And so after a couple of years, we hit it off, of course, and a couple of years down the road, it became clear that one of us was going to have to relocate. And it was probably going to be me. Because there isn't a large aerospace industry up in North Florida.
Sure. I know. Understood.
So, that's how I ended up really in Central Florida. I applied for a planner position with the Florida Department of Transportation at the Orlando Urban Office.
Gotcha.
And it was totally different. I had, I knew nothing about planning, but, I knew that if I was given a chance, I could do the job. And I got hired. And so that was in 2002. So that is what brought me to the Central Florida area.
Fascinating. So you kind of like followed love.
I did.
Love brought you to the Space Coast. So after all the education, the certifications, relocating, did you always work with the Space Coast TPO?
Well, I worked 8 years with the DOT office in Orlando.
Wow, that's a long time.
So that was eight more years. So it was a total of 18 years with FDOT. And the 8 years working at the Orlando office, I was working with metropolitan planning organizations, transportation planning organizations, and it was an opportunity for me to really kind of get certified in urban transportation planning, learn more about modeling, highway program financing, and so I attended some courses through the National Highway Institute. It was USDOT courses, and it's just a wonderful opportunity to get certification and training as transportation professionals, and so that's what I did. And I towards the end of my tenure with DOT, I will tell you that the commute was starting to get a little long. I was commuting from Orlando to Merritt Island. Right. We had purchased a home on Merritt Island at that time.
Nice. Great area.
And so the last year, the commute was starting to get a little old. And my predecessor, Mr. Bob Comm, who was the director of the TPO for 28 years or so, he had an opening. And he said, "Would you like to come and work for me?" And I didn't even hesitate. It felt right. Right. Which I was quite surprised because, 18 years with DOT, they were my family.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That must be hard to leave.
It really wasn't, surprisingly, because it just felt so right. And I don't believe in coincidences, so I took it, and the rest is history.
It sounds like the universe responded then. When you said, "Please shorten my commute," they're like, "Here you go."
It happened within a month.
Wow. See, the power of suggestion.
Yes, I totally believe in it.
Yes. Take control of your destiny. So that brings us, you're always, and your title's director.
Correct.
Okay.
No, I was the transportation program manager.
Okay.
And so I worked with project priorities, the bike ped program, several different areas, public involvement program. But my director, he was up for retirement, and so
Right.
he retired around April of last year in 2018. And so I was able to step into his role, and I was very thankful for the position.
Yeah, no doubt.
And it's a wonderful opportunity, and I'm very blessed to be here in this position.
And I think the Space Coast is blessed to have you at the position. You've been doing some great things at the helm, so we're going to dive into that in just a little bit. Tell us about your current family and what you do for fun.
Well, we have 4 children between us.
Wow, the Brady Bunch.
Yes, and 4 grandchildren.
Wow, exciting.
Yes, and so my daughter actually works out at the Kennedy Space Center, and she is a area integrator
Very
for
cool.
NASA Processing Facility. So she mostly works at Launch Complex 39B, which is where the SLS rocket.
Yeah, that's a busy pad.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so they'll be sending the first woman and the next man to the moon. So
How
I'm very
exciting.
proud. Yes, very exciting. So she absolutely loves her job, and she's been out there since shortly after high school.
Okay.
So she's doing very well. My husband has retired
Okay.
from the United Space Alliance. They kind of disintegrated, but he retired, so he stays at home and takes care of our home.
Very cool.
And he does a wonderful job, and our cat,
Yes.
very important job.
Very important.
'Cause she's the queen of the house.
Exactly.
And all of our children, they're grown and they have, very wonderful lives, very happy, are married, and we just really couldn't be happier, very blessed in that respect. What do we like to do for fun?
Yes.
We love to hike. We just got back from Colorado.
Oh,
we went
great
to
hiking up
Vail.
there.
Yes, and it was just outside Vail. We went on a long hiking trip. That was fabulous. And we love to go to the beach. I love to cook. I love to make dishes that I've never made before.
Okay, an adventurous cook.
Yes.
How does the
yes.
family enjoy that?
My husband loves it.
So you win more than you lose?
Yes, I do. I do. Thankfully,
Right.
thanks to the Food Network.
Exactly. Rachel Way.
It's an amazing tool.
I know. And I also love the kitchen. And even though I much prefer eating out because I'm afraid of dishes. I'm kidding.
Yes.
But certainly the nice long walks, the days at the beach and cooking, that pretty much fulfills the when you're not in the office. That's pretty much your lifestyle.
Well, and I love to read. I like mysteries. I love self-help type
Sure.
books.
Yeah.
It's like I'm a searcher. I'm always
Right.
searching to be better, do better.
And constantly
And,
improve.
Constantly improving.
Exactly.
So that's just something I think I will be that way till to the day I die.
Hey, that's not a bad way to be. So thanks for tuning in, all of us that are live. I'm going to go just take a little pause, and so that'll complete our first segment. Just getting to know Georganna here a little bit more personally. When we come back, again, don't go anywhere. We're going to be diving into the roles of the TPO and some future projects, and I don't know. There's maybe some things that we could uncover and reveal for some of our listeners that maybe not everybody understands or knows just yet. So tune in. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hello, America. I'm Kid Chronic,
And I'm Trees. You're listening to the Ruthless Politics Podcast.
where we bring you ruthlessly sharp political commentary every Tuesday.
Listen every week and become that much smarter.
This ain't. Hello, America. We are Ruthless Politics, Vladimir Putin's favorite podcast.
Hello, American podcast listeners. I am Vladimir Putin, I like this podcast. I like this guy Trees. Kid Groening, not so much.
Tune in every Tuesday for Ruthless Politics Podcast, live from Moscow. Just kidding, folks. Live from the Space Coast Podcast Studios in sunny Florida.
No, but for real, every Tuesday, check it out. And you can see it on the YouTube, the Facebook, and the Twitter and Instagram. You're listening to Space Coast Podcast, home of the greatest podcasts on the Space Coast. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor or having your own show, email us at spacecoastpodcast@hotmail.com.
Space Coast Podcast.
Talk hard!
All right. I promised it was going to be nice and short and sweet. What you heard was a promo from Ruthless Politics. They'll be joining us in the studio this afternoon, so don't miss that. Again, if you're watching on our live feed and you have some comments, concerns, suggestions, whatever you may be kind of inquiring about in your head, leave us a comment. We'd love to maybe address that on the air as we're broadcasting here live on a beautiful Tuesday here in Central Florida. So once again, Georganna's in the studio. She is, again, your director of the Space Coast TPO, your Transportation Planning Organization is a correct acronym. So the TPO, let's dive in. What is it and why should people care?
All right. That's a very good question. Well, we are the body designated under federal law that's responsible for transportation planning here in Brevard County.
Gotcha.
So our role is really to coordinate state and federal transportation funding, and so this is taxpayers' dollars. So it's a very important focus that we have. So the TPO looks at the big picture,
Right.
Of transportation. We are coordinating between all the different transportation agencies and the local governments. So our TPO governing board has 19 elected officials. 5 county commissioners, 1 port commissioner, and we have 13 city council members.
Oh.
So that comprises our governing board. We have a technical and citizens advisory committee that
Right.
meets prior to the TPO governing board, and they make recommendations and basically hear all of the presentations. And they make recommendations to the TPO board. So it's very important. It's the opportunity where the citizens can definitely be involved at all of those meetings.
Right.
As far as the key duties and function,
Right.
One of our key duties is really to develop a long-range transportation plan. It's to identify what the improvements are going to be needed over the next 25 years. So you almost have to predict the future.
Got that crystal ball.
You got to have a crystal ball, and we use the best available sciences to do the forecast.
Sure.
Those are models. Trips are not made for the sake of traveling. They're made to get somewhere. To engage in an activity. To workshop, study, or play. So we use a computer simulation model that converts the population and employment into traffic and assigns it to roads. We compare those future volumes with the standards on how much a road can carry, and then we see where the future deficiencies are likely to be. So that really provides the vision for
Right.
transportation investments over the next 25 years. The DOT gives us forecasts on predicted funding, state and federal funding that we would be receiving over the 25 years.
Gotcha.
Because as you lay out your projects, it has to be cost feasible. Now, keep in mind, costs change, but it must be in line. You have to have a cost feasible plan and then a needs plan. And if it can't fit into the cost feasible plan, then it gets over into the needs column. And so, land use policy is also a big part of that. We always want to have mixed use, higher density developments, with greater opportunities for biking and pedestrian activities.
Sure.
When you improve an arterial, say you take it from 2 to 3 lanes, you get better accessibility. But then people may find that it's economically wise to change the land use and put in homes or shopping.
Sure.
And so then you're back where you were to begin with.
Right.
And so it's a circular cycle.
Yeah. You got to keep revisiting the same
Yes.
things. Yeah.
And so it is important. We coordinate with our local governments with their comprehensive plans because comprehensive plans are 5-year plans and our long-range plans are 25-year plans. And the two need to be talking.
Right.
And so we are working to do better coordination so we can all be on the same page.
Makes sense. Yeah.
We also monitor performance of the transportation system. Every year, we take traffic counts. We look at where the congestion is, safety, where the accidents are. We have a lot of different performance monitoring that we do to see how these corridors are performing. And that lets us know where the problems are. Because even though if it's a smaller project that's not been identified in the long-range plan, because things come up,
Of course.
then we can work with a local government or the DOT, and we can develop projects that way. And if it's a large project, then we would need to amend the long-range plan to get it in. So that's part of what we do. And then probably one of the most important things we do is to develop a priority list,
Right.
project priority list, and we do that by working with our local governments. And these are projects that we submit to the DOT
Right.
for state and federal funding. And it's where the planning meets the money. And really that's what it's all about. It's bringing funding into Brevard County to fund these very important projects so we can have better mobility. And it's good for economic development as well here in Brevard County. So,
Well, absolutely. There's only sometimes where construction may impede a business, and it's temporary. And I know there's
Correct.
mitigation, things for that kind of thing, because you still need a ingress, egress.
Correct.
To some of these businesses, even though they're improving the sidewalks, roads, what may have you. So to get ahead of this, I'm really trying to advocate for the community to become more involved and take a position. If you know you're a business that's going to be affected by a change in a route or even a pattern of traffic, then certainly you should get ahead of it and say, hey, can I recommend this instead of, again, after the fact, and then you're just looking for someone to blame for your loss of business or whatever may have you, and because you may want to consider not renewing a lease. You may want to consider relocating or maybe getting a second location, so that's easier to find and access. So there's a lot of things that a business can do if they are in the know and they have, again, access to what the TPO is doing actively. I know you guys have a great website, and we're going to dive into that in a little bit, where some of the community can find the things. You have a counter events. You were mentioning that you just updated, and you guys constantly update it. So there's always going to be something. I found you guys at a local library. It was a free event. It's not hard.
that was our annual open house.
Yes, and if you want to get involved, if you want to be there asking the questions, then you guys make it accessible. I think
Absolutely.
you guys do a great job with that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is that a priority?
It is a very important priority. We are not the implementing agency. We're
Right.
the planning agency. But we are in the loop with the DOT and the local governments. And so we want to make sure that we have as much information on our website. We have a distribution list that you can sign up for on our website.
Right.
And get email blasts on things that are happening. And so it is extremely important that we have the public involved throughout the process. Even we're in the process of developing our new long-range plan. Now, I understand that's a 25-year plan.
Sure.
And it is hard sometimes to get members of the public to attend that. But we're looking at the long-term vision. We've had a lot of people take the surveys on our website.
Oh, good.
That survey has closed, so we were very excited about that.
That's excellent.
So that was, that's another tool.
Yeah, create engagement. Yeah.
Yes. But as projects come up, the DOT will hold, public meetings.
Right.
And I would definitely encourage all of the citizens to attend. And if you can't attend, they have a public information officer. You can submit those comments online. You can submit them to the TPO as well, and we will make sure that they get entered into the record. But definitely, I think that it is really important that you be engaged throughout the process. And there's lots of opportunities.
Right.
But once, say if it's a widening project and the department starts buying right-of-way, it is definitely too late at that point. And so the earlier, the better. We want to know what's important to our citizens.
Exactly.
It starts from the ground up.
Right.
It should not be from the top down. It starts from the ground up. And so public involvement is extremely important to us at the TPO.
That's awesome. And is that part of your culture with your team? And getting back to your team, how big is the office?
We have 9 staff members.
Okay.
And we have our own public information officer.
Right.
Abby does a fabulous job.
Yes.
Since we've had her. We have been reaching groups that we've never reached before.
Oh, fascinating.
And we attend the millennials group because that was an area that we really wanted to get.
Yes.
We want to do more in reaching out to the disadvantaged folks as well. We have to actively get everyone's opinion. What's important to you?
Right.
Is it transit? Is it walking and biking?
Right.
So it is very much a part of our culture. It's really who we are. Like I said, we're a creature of federal law, so that is also a requirement that the planning process be predominantly about public engagement.
Exactly. So you develop a culture within your team to be out there, getting involved, getting input and feedback from the community. So that's already pretty, that's significant.
Yes.
Not a lot of people, organizations may do that. I wish more city government, had somebody that would go out and do the networking, the mayors, and I know some of the councilmen, they have lives of their own, but to be proactive and get out there, stay ahead of things, and just know that your organization, your department cares, and you want to be involved, and again, get some reactions, get some feedback. Hey guys, we're thinking about doing this. Well, this is, what do you guys think? These are all important questions. I think that not only the citizenry, citizenry, and the community would like to, be approached with different things, especially if it's going to affect the tax base. It's going to affect, if it involves a school or even a local road or even a park. People should have someone that they know that they could reach out to and be like, hey, I heard this is, going on. And it not only does it kind of defeat the rumor mill, because, there's some things that, people get an idea and then it's carried away. And then before, the city and the government reacts to it, it's already become wildfire and it's a false narrative and it has nothing to do with the original policy or whatever was discovered. And so to prevent those things, again, education, being in the forefront, and being a liaison between that department, whatever you're doing in government. Right. So now that we've kind of uncovered the functions of the TPO and some of the policies that you guys have and priorities, do you share? You guys collect a lot of data.
We do.
Do you share that with like Space Coast Area Transit or other departments so that they could better manage their routes or anything like that?
Yes, we Space Coast Area Transit is under the Board of County Commissioners. Okay. But we have started having quarterly meetings with them.
Cool.
Because we want to know how we can work together.
Yeah, I think that'd be important.
And so the thing about transit, we just did an ADA accessibility study.
Very important.
And so we have all that information, and so we have a staff member in our office meeting with the planner from Space Coast Area Transit, Terry, and they're going around and meeting with the individual local governments to find out how to make those improvements at the bus stops.
Right.
Whether they be, shelters or the pads for the buses to pull up, to make them ADA compliant. Funding is another issue. There seems to be funding and money for capital for buses, but when it comes to operations, to have more routes, that tends to be the problem. You need to have drivers, and so there's limitations on how you can use certain funding, and so there's plenty of money for capital, but not so much for operations.
Gotcha.
And so
that makes sense.
And that's something I think the Board of County Commissioners is working with, and we want to see how we can help Space Coast Area Transit in the future. That is very, very important that be considered.
Right.
It's not just about tourists. We have a lot of folks that depend on transit as their mode of transportation.
Yeah.
And they work 2 and 3 jobs, and we need to be considering them when we plan for transportation as well.
Yeah, I've seen some PSAs from SCAT, and they have, I believe his name is Jim Ridenauer, who does like Ride with Jim, and it's like a whole series. And I've saw a lot of even local politicians go on these tours and learn about the functions of transit, and help promote it, because if people start using the trolleys and just knowing that they're there, of course making it safer with pads and other stop improvements, I think people would kind of find it fun.
Absolutely.
Some people don't understand. For $1, I can put my beach cruiser on the front of a bus, hop on in Satellite Beach, take the 24 to 13th Street South, and Cocoa Beach, take the 9 all the way to the port if you wanted to. But I usually get off at like Shepherd's Park or Minuteman, and it cost me $1. And now I got my beach cruiser. I'm all the way up the coast, and I could always count on a ride back.
Absolutely.
And it's if you plan ahead, then you could really have a good time, make an adventure out of it. They encourage you to bring bikes and surfboards and everything else on there, so it's not just for students, it's not for people who can't drive.
Absolutely.
I think everybody should take advantage of it and learn how to use public transit a little bit more. Anyway, that's me advocating.
We had our staff members go on a trip. They took us and we learned how to ride it, and we went to different places, and actually there's a Ride with Jim event coming up. So
cool.
You're absolutely right. It is they're very nice buses.
They're gorgeous and they're generous.
I've been on them several times, and I think people should really start taking advantage of them more and more.
I'm saying, especially when, in my instance, I don't want to pub crawl and then drive home.
Exactly.
I want to ride my bike, have a couple stops, maybe Coconuts and Jonathan's and a couple other area places, and then take the bus casually back, and not risk, getting pulled over or anything else. So, and again, for $1, like you can't beat that with a stick. You can't beat it, no. And there's also, I think, memberships or free rides with a library card.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's super accessible.
Yes.
And again, that's important. When people decide on a place, there's a couple of amenities people look for. Does it have walking paths? Does it have bicycle paths or share rows? Am I going to feel safe, exercising or jogging, cycling, sharing the road? Is that facility there? Is it accessible? And does it function properly? Is it like it's supposed to? Is it safe? And these are all questions that people, when they're shopping for different areas. And we have, again, a lot of engineers come into the area that are choosing between Palo Alto and Austin and other tech hotspots. And for us to convince them, like, yes, we are fast forward. We do have a couple exciting things, which leads me into the next topic, the bike path.
Okay.
that's connected across the state from Pinellas County all the way to Titusville, where right now is the terminus. But there's plans to extend that down through the Sanctuary, Merritt Island Sanctuary, I believe, or
Yes.
somewhere down the coast.
Yes, so you're referring to the Coast to Coast.
Coast to coast, yes.
Which is 250 miles.
I know, it's long.
Amazing, from St. Petersburg
Yes.
all the way to Titusville. And so you can explore Florida by foot or by bicycle. So that is just absolutely wonderful. So we have the Brevard County portion of the Coast to Coast is underway. You know, we have the rail trail, the Florida East Central Regional Rail Trail,
Which is huge.
It's massive, and so it runs from Titusville all the way to Volusia County into Edgewater. It was completed last year. And so the trail in downtown will connect to Max Brewer Bridge.
Max Brewer, yeah, that's right.
And then, you know, it will tie into the Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge.
Yep.
And, you know, go all the way to the Atlantic Ocean.
That's so cool.
Parking lot 1 at the Canaveral National Seashore. So that is going to be such a unique experience.
Right.
And so that should be all happening within the next few years. So Titusville, you know, is designated as a trail town.
Yes,
which
it
is
is.
quite an honor.
It is an honor.
And, you know, economically, this is huge. It is very important.
Yeah, I don't think people understand because it is so new. And when they did the ribbon cutting, I was very excited. I wanted to go there with my bike and, you know, and be a part of it. Conflicts got in the way. So, but I still make a plan to do that. And I used to be a very avid cyclist. I've done Shepherd Park where I dipped my wheel in the Atlantic, and 9 hours later I was in Weeki Wachee Springs with a bunch of my buddies. Yeah, we averaged it's 140 miles, and we averaged about 19 miles an hour the whole way, with stops and
Nice.
you know, I mean we were booking, we were going fast, and Space Coast Freewheelers they put on that a ride, and it's fun, you know. I mean, you're at 6 a.m. you're dipping your wheels in the Atlantic, and then you're in Weeki Wachee Springs on the opposite side of the state, dipping your wheels in the springs up there, and beautiful parks. I mean, Weeki Wachee Springs is beautiful. I mean, I love kayaking over there and stuff like that. But so being an avid cyclist, we didn't have protected roads. You know, that's a route that shares highways and byways from coast to coast. With this new coast to coast quote unquote rail system or trail system, there is no automobiles allowed. No motor vehicles whatsoever.
This is a paved trail.
Right.
Now, as you're going into more urbanized areas, you may have to interact at
Right.
times, but, you know, just to get from city to city. But you're right. This is a paved, 10 to 12 foot paved trail, and off-road.
Right.
So it's a state-of-the-art trail system.
Yeah.
And so we are very excited to have those trails up in the north part of the county. The Brevard Zoo Trail, phase 2
Yes, that
of
was
that
new.
was
Yes.
just completed. And so there was state and federal money used on that
Right.
as well, but that was a partnership.
And that goes from, for people who don't know, Brevard Zoo is on Wickham Road, right by 95, and this trail now goes all the way south to Pineda.
Yes.
And then now they're finishing phase 2, which is
Spur. I think it's Spur. Turtle Mound.
Turtle Mound.
Yes.
Okay, so that's, I mean, I think it's 3 miles from
About
Brevard
3
Zoo to
miles.
Pineda, and then an additional phase 2 is probably another couple
Another
miles.
2 miles, yeah.
That's cool.
So
Protected 5 miles through.
It is beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. So these are tremendous assets. When they did the ribbon cutting on phase 2, Commissioner Smith was there.
Yep.
The folks that came out, the families that were riding it, it was amazing. So what a fabulous asset to have in the central part of the county.
I know. And now, and having commuted by bike for a couple of years, I lived without an automobile. I don't know if you understood that. For about 5 years,
Wow.
I was
No,
only
I did
cycling.
not.
I did my grocery shopping on a big messenger bag.
Wow.
I did, I commuted in rain and anything else that life threw at me, 40-degree temperatures, you name it. I lived that lifestyle as a cyclist full time. And people don't realize that, there's some roads that aren't super friendly.
That's right.
I've had interactions with vehicles. it's we've been known as the not so pedestrian, not so bicycle friendly county for a little bit. I've lost several cyclist friends recently. You know, and I don't need to stir controversy, because I know it's not controversial. It's, you know, I know there's plans in there. The existing infrastructure maybe hasn't done it, but all the new improvements are, you're seeing the bike lane, you're seeing the share rows that encourage vehicles and cyclists alike to share the road. And so it's more of just an education. And I know, speaking of controversy, I know that you're probably not responsible. That's more of the DOT. But the A1A improvements between Inver Beach and Satellite Beach with the crosswalks, people are very confused with those. Now we got the blinking lights. You know, I know Melbourne Beach has like flags, and the Atlantic has, you know, crossing flags provided. So when you use a crosswalk, you grab a flag, and that indicates to, you know, vehicles, hey, to stop. And, you know, when there's a pedestrian in the crosswalk, even if it's not on your side of the road, you still have obligation to wait for that pedestrian to completely cross before you move your vehicle. Again, education is more of anything. And the only reason it's controversial is because people aren't taught that. So then when it happens and it's a surprise, then they're like, who did this to my road?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've definitely got that right. The mid-block crossings, I think there's 6 that was put in Satellite Beach. You know, they were very controversial. And then it's the rectangular rapid flashing beacons, which are very
rapid flashing beacons. I like that.
Very bright.
Right.
But the feedback that we've gotten now that the law enforcement was out there, we actually did some public involvement along with the city of Satellite Beach and law enforcement. We were out there and stopping people that were trying to get over to go to the beach, talking to folks. Everyone loved it. It has changed the traffic pattern, basically. People are slowing down. They're not speeding as much as they were before. And from there, from Satellite Beach all the way to US 192, there will be many more put in over the next couple of years. And I think that will change the flow and the feel of A1A. I mean, this is the beach community.
Exactly.
If ever there was a place that bicyclists, pedestrians, and vehicles can learn to interact together, it's on the beach. And so we are very excited that people are starting to embrace it, and it's a culture shift.
It is a culture shift, because if people are not used to, you know, more intersections or traffic lights or traffic utilities, for lack of a better term. So whatever that, excuse me, whatever that traffic signal looks like, when there's new ones, you know, kind of that just get introduced, it may affect your commute. It may affect, you know, if you're, you know, like to have a lead foot, again, all big things when you talk about the people who have been here for a while, and now that, you know, there's changes and there's growth, and, you know, we're continuing to progress here on the Space Coast, you know, always trying to improve. So it shouldn't be a surprise that, you know, when there's different signal placement added and crosswalks added, this not only helps us as a region from mitigating, you know, a lot of loss of pedestrian life, especially, you know, because we're visited. You know, a lot of our economy is based on tourism, and we're visited by all these beachgoers. And if they can't walk across the street to go get a slice of pizza at a restaurant when they're visiting a beach or something to that effect, I mean, we really got to be better stewards. You know, we got to take care of our tourists. We got to take care of our visitors. We got to take care of, you know, the kids who may drop a toy in the crosswalk or something and delay a little bit longer, or, you know, the retired couple, you know, the seniors who are going to the beach and maybe they take a little bit of time, you know, getting over the crosswalk. So for us, you know, we you know, there's got to be a culture of patience now coming into the psyche, and you know, society in general has to embrace the concerns for our citizens. And you know, it's not a bad thing to be low in pedestrian fatalities. That's like a really good thing.
This is a really good thing. We are, I don't know if everyone has heard by now, but Brevard County is number 3 in the nation in pedestrian fatalities and serious injuries.
Gosh.
That was a Smart Growth America report that came out earlier in the year. Florida's number 1 in the nation. We got to do better. And so, you know, every Brevard County citizen is someone's loved one. We need to, you know, we're doing ourselves a disservice by being at the top of these lists. And I tell you, talk about, you know, tourism. In 2018, I think there was a record-breaking 126 million tourists that moved through Florida.
Wow.
And, you know, perception is what perception is.
Right.
You know, it makes you wonder why someone would want to bring their family to an area that has a statistic like that. So there's a lot of reasons why we need to do better.
Yeah. Yeah. In real estate, you know, people are searching online. They start their searches online. And there's third-party real estate service websites that I won't divulge or give mention to. But there's a new thing called walkability. And it's graded, you know, so right by the school districts, you know, how well is it, you know, commute times. Like there's all kinds of like different graphs and stats based on different parts. You know, so if you're shopping a home in Merritt Island versus Vieira versus West Melbourne, they're going to have different ratings depending on the infrastructure that's, you know, been put in place and you know installed and now used by the community, by the, you know, of service of the government. So now they are implementing, you know, these walkability scores to the search results of homes. And I think we need to be sensitive to that, because if your community or your neighborhood even is failing at that score, people are noticing.
Sure.
And when they're shopping for homes, as a homeowner, that may count against your home. So when somebody's deciding between Merritt Island and West Melbourne, for instance, if they don't choose your home because of a lousy score in that department, then, you know, it doesn't do good for your home value. It doesn't do good for, you know, the marketability of your property.
Well, we are at the TPO, our board directed us to implement Vision Zero, which is basically a concept that, you know, all serious injuries and deaths are preventable. Right. So whether you're in a vehicle or you're on foot, or you're a vulnerable road user, bicyclist or a motorcyclist, you know, 90% of fatalities, serious injuries are, you know, human error. And so it's going to take a 3-pronged approach. And so we'll be kicking off our Vision Zero symposium at the end of September. And so we're really excited about that, but we want to all of our local governments to embrace this. The DOT has embraced it, and we have to do better. You know, the only number that is acceptable is 0. Right. It shouldn't be 20 or 30 or 40. For Brevard County, it needs to be 0. Right. And so we are going to embark on that, and you know, the DOT, they have also had a culture shift. Whenever they improve the road, whether it be a resurfacing or a widening, they are considering bike ped improvements. Right. That didn't used to be the case. No. It took a lot of advocacy groups, and I've been a part of a lot of them. I think there's a Florida Bicycle Association. There's a national level association for cycling. Of course, there's USA Cycling, you know, who manages the races and the competitive sport of cycling. And there's a lot of advocacy groups that are in Tallahassee lobbying, and you know, you can't ignore the stats. You can't ignore so many cyclists were killed as a result of lack of infrastructure. And you know, sometimes it is the driver's fault and the cyclist's fault. But sometimes there's just no room to coexist, or there's just a flaw in the infrastructure there. So whether it's like a road with a soft shoulder where nobody can really go, but it's also a 55 mile per hour zone. So, you know, a cyclist is caught, you know, trying to share the road, staying left of the painted line, and taking his rightful position in the lane.
but without somebody realizing that, they have to yield to them, sometimes they get a little too close, and that's where catastrophe happens, and it's a very, very unfortunate thing. So anyway, let's get off that soapbox.
Okay.
I'll tell you what we're going to shift into, okay? The last, we got about 10 minutes. Let's talk about the ongoing projects. I know a lot of people are excited about the MECO extension, including myself in South Brevard, connecting 95 to Babcock.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, then through Babcock to MECO. And we're also seeing that our Melbourne Airport, Melbourne International, is getting its own interchange. Yep, that's going to help facilitate that airport traffic, so people come right off 95, head down Ellis, and access the airport in only a couple miles. Can you elaborate or give us insight as to if we're on time or what those look like?
Yes. So the I-95 Ellis interchange, the construction is anticipated to be completed around spring of 21, so we have a little bit more time left. And then, the county has the parkway under construction from 192 up to Ellis, so that will tie in. And, the county also has Ellis Road under design for a future widening, which will be very important. And, of course, we do have some right-of-way funding in the out years set aside for the right-of-way purchase of Ellis. So that is going to be an extremely important project. And so we're very much looking forward to that. There's a lot of very prestigious high-tech companies that are in the area around the airport.
Oh, yeah. NASA Boulevard is very busy,
So moving, of course, the Vieira Boulevard interchange, we had 3 interchanges under construction in Brevard County, which was huge.
The first time in my history of being up here.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
No.
And so everything seems to be going very well.
Right.
I know there was quite an outcry.
There was a lot of pushback. I'm surprised nobody's been commenting on that. Do you like or do you not like the diverging diamond? Let's see your comments if you're watching live on Facebook.
But so far, so good.
So far, so good.
And I think it will take about a year for traffic volumes to settle down.
Right.
It is predicted to take traffic off I-95 in Fisk and Wickham.
Good.
And there is also going to be improvements at Fisk. There's going to be longer, additional turn lanes at Fisk, which will increase that capacity at 95.
Excellent.
So moving down to the south part of the county.
Yes.
95 at MECO. That's going to break up that very long stretch between Fellsmere and.
It is kind of a long stretch.
And if you happen to miss
no man's land,
Malabar Road,
right,
you have to go all the way down and then turn around.
Right, all the way to Palm Bay Road.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the future. So the city connector to the west from the interchange to Babcock, the city has that under construction. And so that's moving forward. I think that construction should be, for the interchange, be done around the summer, late summer. And the connector road a little bit after that. It's not quite on the same timeline, but the city and the DOT is working closely on that.
Perfect.
So, then we've got South Babcock, which is a county road.
Right. But shares with City of Melbourne.
Yes. And
at around a certain point.
Correct.
Right. So,
so the section from Deer Point Road all the way to Malabar
right.
Is currently in the PD&E phase, which is the environmental phase, project development and environment. That's finishing up. And design is programmed in fiscal year 21. Okay. So that will be moving forward, and the DOT will be administering that design. Unfortunately, we do not have right-of-way or construction money.
Right.
The right-of-way is going to be very expensive.
Okay.
And so that would be one of the projects that is not going to be happening anytime in the very near future. We're talking more long-term, just due to the right-of-way. And then, of course, you've got the St. John's Heritage Parkway. There's been some discussions about connecting from Babcock a portion of the parkway that will go west and north up to tie into Malabar.
Right.
And so, the whole purpose of the parkway when it was built was to create that new north-south travel route.
Exactly.
And it will relieve congestion at, the existing roads, and it also will tie in to the east-west roads.
Right.
We need redundancy in the system.
Oh, yeah.
That was the vision of it to begin with.
Minton to Emerson at any given time, because that's the only artery, or Jupiter or Pace, to access northwest Palm Bay. So now that Emerson connects to the Heritage Parkway, I'm seeing a little bit of alleviation. Some people, I think most of the citizens understand now, some of those residents in that area understand now that they can access, a western portion to get to 95 and, commute. That way, when everybody bum rushes Minton there, I mean, it's one of the busiest intersections.
Yes.
So anything to alleviate that stress would be great. And that goes for Minton, all the way to Malabar Road as well. I really like to take the Heritage Parkway all the way to Malabar Road, and because I frequent the end of the west portion of Malabar Road for recreation, and so for me it's like a really easy commute instead of 95 Malabar Road, and then you got to go through all the commercial zone, all, light after light after light. So I know for me, I'm excited about it. You have Heritage High School out there as well, and once it does connect to Babcock and wrap around that southern part of Palm Bay, it's really going to help some places that have been marginalized because it's hard to access.
Sure. I will say that this is the very early stage.
Right.
It's an alternative corridor analysis.
Okay.
Prior to the environmental study, so we've got a long ways to go.
Right.
And what will have to be determined is how will it relieve traffic off the state highway system?
Right.
What is it going to take off on 95?
Exactly.
And Babcock? And so we need to make sure that it does that, because it will be a very expensive project. So it's got to make those two hurdles.
Sure.
Before we can move forward. So, Babcock from Malabar up to Palm Bay Road, that project is a little further along. That's the state road portion of Babcock. Design is complete and has been sitting on the shelf, and we have right-of-way programmed over almost 5 years.
Wow.
But no construction money. And again, it's Babcock and Palm Bay Road is the busiest intersection in Brevard County. It's 68,000 cars a day moving through that intersection.
That's amazing.
So, we have some very, big projects that are needed.
You have some opportunities, yeah.
We have opportunities. Yeah. We just need an infusion of money to kind of move these projects forward. 192 in Hollywood and Evans is another big intersection job. Intersection improvements, adding capacity at an intersection can really give you a lot of bang for the buck, because it's not quite, you're not buying millions of dollars in right-of-way.
Right.
You're just buying little corner clips, and you can add turn lanes and just add the capacity. Yeah,
when you use the word or the term right-of-way, you're talking about the public swales, private property that you have to purchase from the municipality or private owner.
Correct.
Exactly.
And many times right-of-way acquisition can exceed the cost of construction. And right-of-way acquisition is an unknown. It depends on market value.
Right.
And so that's a big one. And so the more right-of-way you need, the longer it's going to take to move that project forward.
So before because we're counting down, and I still know we have a couple hot topics.
Okay.
What else should Brevard drivers be wary of? Let's talk about some of the active construction zones going on that maybe they could avoid or understand what's going on.
A1A and 520 just started construction in Cocoa Beach. And the purpose of that project, they're lengthening some of the turn lanes, which, will be really important to add capacity. But the interesting thing is that the purpose of that project was to make it more walkable.
That's what I understood. Yeah, it's a beautification project, more medians. Because
there's a lot of tourists that go in through that intersection.
Oh, a lot. Yeah, Ron John's right there.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can do both without having to make very wide intersections, such as Malabar and Palm Bay Road, and Malabar and Babcock, where it is very difficult for a pedestrian to even get across the road.
Exactly.
And so this is a perfect opportunity to just kind of tighten up the intersection, but then add capacity. So that one comes to mind. The majority of the projects that we have going on, there's some resurfacing here and there, but they're kind of in the pipeline. They're going through all the different phases of development. The environmental study, the design,
Right.
And then of course the right-of-way acquisition, and then when it finally gets to construction, that's when you see the road being torn up.
Right.
Those are the big ones that are kind of underway right now.
Perfect. And before we start to wind down, because I want to give you an opportunity to plug some upcoming events or symposiums,
Okay.
town halls, whatever we have to offer there. But I want to quickly, I have available your newly designed
Yes.
fresh interface on your website. And so as you can see already, you got the big banners talking about different events going on, Walk to School Day, and all kinds of different things. Sign up for the newsletter.
Yes.
What would you say is the most important part of this website for the community and residents, drivers alike? I
would check it routinely, see and sign up for the newsletter, because you will, any traffic issues, detours, you will be aware of it. And I would also sign up for, the newsletter so that you can find out about any public information, public events that we're going to be having. You can also click on projects. You can find out what projects the TPO is doing in-house, what studies we're doing. And you can also find out, some details on some of the specific priority projects that I discussed, some of them. And by all means, you can also call our office. I am always available, and I will, if I'm not, I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. And we want you to be involved. Come to meetings. Come to the TPO Technical and Citizens Advisory Committee meetings or the board meeting, and you always have an opportunity to speak. You fill out a public comment card. Right. And so the opportunity is always there, and I would encourage you to get involved in what's going on in transportation. Exactly. I like it. So between the newsletter sign up, spacecoasttpo.com, you guys also have a Facebook page? We do. And I know I follow that. Listen, I'm probably one of your number one fans because, not only do you guys keep that up to date with all kinds of really cool knowledge, events, and other insights. But but I follow it because, again, it's everything. Whoever's operating it and offering the content is doing a good job because they're very insightful. They're sharing relevant information that I think that everybody can enjoy. So she does a great job. Yes. So Space Coast Transportation Planning Organization, all spelled out. You can find their Facebook page, Space Coast Transportation Planning Organization. They actually commented on our live feed today. So if you're listening to this and you would like to learn more about them and see what they have to offer on Facebook, just head to the video and you look in the comments section and find them there. Of course, they're easy to find, even in the search bar. But for those listening, we really, we thank you for tuning in after the fact. And, of course, our live audience watching on Facebook. Again, we do a live show for every broadcast. So thank you so much for tuning in. And any last wishes or to tell us about what you're doing for Labor Day? Oh, low-key. Low-key? I'd like to go to the beach. I think we'll go to the beach. Weather pending. Yes, weather pending. We have Dorian out there. Well, this is great. I want you to come back. Hopefully, you'll visit us again to give us updates with the rest of your projects. And I hope you, as a listener, found a lot of value here. Again, tell your friends, share the episode, whether you're finding us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Or, of course, head to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Space Coast Podcast. Find the recorded live video there and enjoy the replay. So with that, thank you guys so much. Have a great Tuesday. And if you are live on Facebook with us,
don't go anywhere. Ruthless Politics is going to be joining us in the studio. So visit Ruthless Politics on Facebook, and we'll be going live in a little bit. Georganna, thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome.